I celebrate myself, and what I assumed you shall assume. For every atom belonging to me, as good belongs to you. I love and imbibe my soul. I lean and love at my ease, observing the spear of summer grass.
Houses and rooms are full of perfumes. The shelves are crowded with perfumes. I breathe the fragrance myself and know it and like it. The distillation would intoxicate me also, but I shall not let it. The atmosphere is not a perfume. It has no taste of the distillation. It is odorless. It is for my mouth forever. I'm in love with it. I will go to the bank by the wood and become undisguised and naked. I am mad for it to be in contact with me. The smoke of my own breath, echoes, ripples, buzzed whispers, love root, silk thread, crotch, and vine. My respiration and inspiration, the beating of my heart, the passing of blood and air through my lungs. The sniff of green leaves and dry leaves and of the shore and dark-colored sea rocks and of hay in the barn. The sound of the belched words of my voice, words loosed to the eddies of the wind. A few light kisses, a few embraces, a reaching around of arms, the play of shine and shade on the trees as the supple boughs wag. The delight alone, or in the rush of the streets, or along the fields and hillsides, the feeling of health, the full noon trill, the song of me rising from bed and meeting the sun. Have you reckoned 1,000 acres much? Have you reckoned the earth much? Have you practiced so long to learn to read? Have you felt so proud to get at the meaning of poems? Stop this day and night with me, and you shall possess the origin of all poems. You shall possess the good of the earth and sun. There are millions of suns left. You shall no longer take things at second or third hand, nor look through the eyes of the dead, nor feed on the specters in books. You shall not look through my eyes either, nor take things from me. You shall listen to all sides and filter them from yourself.
I have heard what the talkers were talking, the talk of the beginning and the end. But I do not talk of the beginning or the end. There was never any more inception than there is now, nor any more youth or age than there is now, and will never be any more perfection than there is now, nor any more heaven or hell than there is now. Urge and urge and urge, always the procreant urge of the world. Out of the dimness, opposite equals advance, always substance and increase. Always sex, always a need of identity, always distinction, always a breed of life. To elaborate is to avail, learned and unlearned. Feel that is so. Sure as the most certain sure, plumbing the uprights, well entreated, braced in the beams, stout as a horse, affectionate, aughty, electrical. I and this mystery, here we stand.
Clear and sweet is my soul, and clear and sweet is all that is not my soul. Lack one lacks both, and the unseen is proved by the seen, till that becomes unseen, and receives proof in its turn, showing the best and dividing it from the worst, age, vexes age, knowing the perfect fitness and economity of things. While they discuss, I'm silent, and go bathe and admire myself. Welcome is every organ and attribute of me, and of any man hearty and clean. Not an inch not a particle of an inch, is vile, and none shall be less familiar than the rest. I'm satisfied. I see, dance, laugh, sing, as the hugging and loving bedfellow sleeps at my side through the night, and withdraws at the beep of the day, with stealthy tread, leaving me basket covered with white towels, swelling the house with their plenty. Shall I postpone my acceptation and realization and scream at my eyes that they turn from gazing after and down the road and forth with cyper and show me a scent, exactly the contents of one and exactly the contents of two, and which is ahead?
Trippers and askers surround me, people I meet, the effect upon me, my early life, or the ward and city I live in, or the nation, the latest dates, discoveries, inventions, societies, authors old and new, my dinner, dress, associates, looks, compliments, dues, the real or fanciful indifference of some man or woman I love, the sickness of one of my folks, or of myself, or ill-doing, or loss or lack of money, or depressions or exaltations, battles, horrors of fratricidal war, the fever of doubtful news, the fitful events. These come to me, days and nights, go from me again. But they are not the me myself. Apart from the pulling and hauling stands what I am, stands amused, complacent, compassionating, idle, unitary, looks down, is erect, or bends an arm on an impalpable certain rest. Looking with side-curved head, curious what will come next, both in and out of the game, and watching and wondering at it. Backward, I see my own days where I sweated through fog with linguists and contenders. I have no mockings or arguments. I witness and wait.
I believe in you, my soul. The other I am must not abase itself to you, and you must not be abased to the other. Loaf with me on the grass. Loose the stop from your throat. Not words, not music or rhyme I want, not custom or lecture, not even the best. Only the lull I like, the hum of your valved voice. I mind how once we lay such a transparent summer morning, how you settled your head athwart my hips and gently turned over upon me, and parted the shirt from my bosom bone, and plunged your tongue to my bare-stripped heart, and reached till you felt my beard, and reached till you held my feet. Swiftly arose and spread around me the peace and knowledge that passed all the argument of the earth. And I know that the hand of God is the promise of my own, and I know that the Spirit of God is the brother of my own, and that all the men of the ever born are also my brothers, and the women my sisters and lovers, and that a kelson of the creation is love, and limitless are leaves, stiff or drooping in the fields, and brown gnats in the little wells beneath them, and mossy scabs of the worm fence, and heaped stones, elder, mullein, and pokeweed.
A child said, "What is the grass?" fetching it to me with full hands. How could I answer the child? I do not know what it is any more than he. I guess it must be the flag of my disposition out of hopeful green stuff woven. Or I guess it is the handkerchief of the Lord, a scented gift and remembrancer, designedly dropped, bearing the owner's name some way in the corners that we may see and remark and say, whose? Or I guess the grass is itself a child, the produced babe of the vegetation. Or I guess it is a uniform hieroglyphic, and it means sprouting alike in broad zones and narrow zones, growing among black folks as among white, Canuck, Tuckahoe, Congressman, Cuff. I give them the same. I receive them the same. And now it seems to me, the beautiful, uncut hair of graves. Tenderly will I use you, curling grass. It may be you transpire from the breasts of young men. It may be if I had known them, I would have loved them. It may be you are from old people, and from women, and from offspring taken soon out of their mother's laps. And here you are, the mother's laps. This grass is very dark to be from the white heads of old mothers, darker than the colourless beards of old men, dark to come from under the faint red roofs of mouths. Oh, I perceive after all so many uttering tongues, and I perceive they do not come from the roofs of mouths for nothing. I wish I could translate the hints about the dead young men and women, and the hints about old men and mothers, and the offspring taken soon out of their laps. What do you think has become of the young and old men? And what do you think has become of the women and children? They are alive and well somewhere. The smallest sprout shows there is really no death. And if ever there was, it led forward life and does not wait at the end to arrest it, and ceased the moment life appeared. All goes onward and outward. Nothing collapses. And to die is different from what anyone supposed, and luckier.
Has anyone supposed it lucky to be born? I hasten to inform him or her it is just as lucky to die, and I know it. I pass death with the dying, and birth with the new washed babe, and am not contained between my hat and boots, and peruse manifold objects, no two alike, and every one good, the earth good, and the stars good, and their adjuncts all good. I am not an earth, nor an adjunct of an earth. I am the mate and companion of people, all just as immortal and fathomless as myself. They do not know how immortal, but I know. Every kind for itself and its own, for me, mine, male and female. For me, those that have been boys and that love women. For me, the man that is proud and feels how it stings to be slighted. For me, the sweetheart and the old maid. For me, mothers and the mothers of mothers. For me, lips that have smiled, eyes that have shed tears. For me, children and the begetters of children. Undrape. You are not guilty to me, nor stale, nor discarded. I see through the broadcloth and gingham, whether or no, and am around, tenacious, acquisitive, tireless, and cannot be shaken away.
The little one sleeps in its cradle. I lift the gauze and look a long time, and silently brush away flies with my hand. The youngster and the red-faced girl turn aside up the bushy hill. I peeringly view them from the top. The suicide sprawls on the bloody floor of the bedroom. I witness the corpse with its dabbled hair. I note where the pistol has fallen. The blab of the pave, the tires of carts, slough of boot soles, talk of the promenaders, the heavy omnibus, the driver with his interrogating thumb, the clank of the shod horses on the granite floor, the snow sleighs the clinking, shouted jokes, pelts of snowballs, the hurrahs for popular favorites, the fury of roused mobs, the flap of the curtained litter, a sick man inside borne to the hospital, the meeting of enemies, the sudden oath, the blows and fall, the excited crowd, the policeman with his star, quickly working his passage to the center of the crowd. The impassive stones that receive and return so many echoes. What groans of overfed or half-starved who fall sunstruck or in fits. What exclamations of women taken suddenly who hurry home and give birth to babes. What living and buried speech is always vibrating here. What howls restrained by decorum. Arrests of criminals, slights, adulterous offers made, acceptances, rejections with convex lips. I mind them, or the show, or residents of them. I come and I depart.
The big doors of the country barn stand open and ready. The dried grass of the harvest time loads the slow-drawn wagon. The clear light plays in the brown, gray, and green intertinged. The armfuls are packed to the sagging line. I am there. I help. I came stretched atop the load. I felt its soft jolts, one leg reclining on the other. I jumped from the crossbeams and seized the clover and timothy and rolled head over heels and tangled my hair full of wisps.
Alone, far in the wilds and mountains, I hunt, wandering amazed at my own lightness and glee. In the late afternoon, choosing a safe spot to pass the night, kindling a fire and broiling the fresh-killed game, falling asleep on the gathered leaves with my dog and gun by my side. The Yankee Clipper is under her sky sails. She cuts the sparkle and scud. My eyes settle the land. I bend at her prow or shout joyously from the deck. The boatmen and clam diggers arose early and stopped for me. I tucked my trouser ends in my boots and went and had a good time. You should have been with us that day round the chowder kettle. I saw the marriage of the trapper in the open air in the far west. The bride was a native girl. Her father and his friends sat near, cross-legged and dumbly smoking. They had moccasins to their feet and large, thick blankets hanging from their shoulders. On a bank lounged the trapper. He was dressed mostly in skins. His luxuriant beard and curls protected his neck. He held his bride by the hand. She had long eyelashes. Her head was bare. Her coarse, straight locks descended upon her voluptuous limbs and reached to her feet. The runaway slave came to my house and stopped outside. I heard his motions crackling the twigs of the woodpile. Through the swung half door of the kitchen, I saw him limpsy and weak, and went where he sat on a log, and led him in, and assured him, and brought water, and filled a tub for his sweated body and bruised feet, and gave him a room that entered from my own, and gave him some coarse, clean clothes, and remember perfectly well his revolving eyes and his awkwardness, and remember putting plasters on the galls of his neck and ankles. He stayed with me a week before he was recuperated and passed north. I had him sit next me at table. My firelock leaned in the corner.
28 young men bathed by the shore. 28 young men, and all so friendly. 28 years of womanly life, and all so lonesome. She owns the fine house by the rise of the bank. She hides, handsome and richly dressed, aft the blinds of the window. Which of the young men does she like the best? Ah, the homeliest of them is beautiful to her. Where are you off to, lady? For I see you. You splash in the water there, yet stay stock, still in your room. Dancing and laughing along the beach came the 29th bather. The rest did not see her, but she saw them and loved them. The beards of the young men glistened with wet. It ran from their long hair. Little streams passed all over their bodies. An unseen hand also passed over their bodies. It descended tremblingly from their temples and ribs. The young men float on their backs. Their white bellies bulge to the sun. They do not ask who seizes fast to them. They do not know who puffs and declines with pendant and bending arch. They do not think whom they souse with spray.
The butcher boy puts off his killing clothes or sharpens his knife at the stall in the market. I loiter, enjoying his repartee and his shuffle and breakdown. Blacksmiths with grimed and hairy chests environ the anvil. Each has his main sledge. They are all out. There is great heat in the fire. From the cinder-strewed threshold, I follow their movements. The list shear of their waist plays even with their massive arms. Overhand the hammers swing. Overhand so slow. Overhand so sure. They do not hasten. Each man hits in his place.
The Negro holds firmly the reins of his 4 horses. The block swags underneath on its tied-over chain. The Negro that drives the dray of the stone yard. Steady and tall he stands, poised on one leg on the string piece. His blue shirt exposes his ample neck and breast and loosens over his hip band. His glance is calm and commanding. He tosses the slouch of his hat away from his forehead. The sun falls on his crispy hair and mustache, falls on the black of his polished and perfect limbs. I behold the picturesque giant and love him, and I do not stop there. I go with the team also. In me the caresser of life, wherever moving, backward as well as forward slewing, to niches aside and junior bending, oxen that rattle the yoke and chain, or halt in the leafy shade. What is that you express in your eyes? It seems to me more than all the point I have read in my life. My tread scares the wood drake and wood duck on my distant and day-long ramble. They rise together, they slowly circle around. I believe in those winged purposes and acknowledge the red, yellow, white playing within me, and consider the green and violet and the tufted crown intentional, and do not call the tortoise unworthy because she is not something else. And the jay in the woods never studied the gamut, yet trills pretty well to me. And the look of the bay mare shames silliness out of me.
The wild gander leads his flock through the cool night. "Ya honk," he says, and sends it down to me like an invitation. The pert may suppose it meaningless, but I listen close. I find its purpose and place up there toward the wintry sky. The sharp-hoofed moose of the north, the cat on the house sill, the chickadee, the prairie dog, the litter of the grunting sow as they tug at her teats, the brood of the turkey hen, and she with her half-spread wings, I see in them and myself the same old law. The press of my foot to the earth springs 100 affections. They scorn the best I can do to relate them. I am enamored of growing outdoors, of men that live among cattle or taste of the ocean or woods, of the builders and steerers of ships, and the wielders of axes and mauls, and the drivers of horses. I can eat and sleep with them week in and week out. What is commonest, cheapest, nearest, easiest is me. Me going in for my chances, spending for vast returns, adorning myself to bestow myself on the first that will take me, not asking the sky to come down to my goodwill, scattering it freely, forever.
The pure contralto sings in the organ loft. The carpenter dresses his plank. The tongue of his foreplane whistles its wild ascending lisp. The married and unmarried children ride home to their Thanksgiving dinner. The pilot seizes the kingpin. He heaves down with a strong arm. The mate stands braced in the whaleboat. Lance and harpoon are ready. The duck shooter walks by silent and cautious stretches. The deacons are ordained with cross hands at the altar. The spinning girl retreats and advances to the hum of the big wheel. The farmer stops by the bars as he walks on a first-day loaf and looks at the oats and rye. The lunatic is carried at last to the asylum, a confirmed case. He will never sleep anymore as he did in the cot in his mother's bedroom. The jur printer with gray head and gaunt jaws works at his case. He turns his quid of tobacco while his eyes blur with the manuscript. The malformed limbs are tied to the surgeon's table. What is removed drops horribly in a pail. The girl is sold at the auction stand. The drunkard nods by the barroom stove. The machinist rolls up his sleeves. The policeman travels his beat. The gatekeeper marks who pass. The young fellow drives the express wagon. I love him, though I do not know him. The other straps on his light boots to complete in the race. The Western turkey shooting draws old and young. Some lean on their rifles, some sit on logs. Out from the crowd steps the marksman, takes his position, levels his piece. The groups of newly come immigrants cover the wharf or levee. As men hoe in the sugar field, the overseer views them from his saddle. The bugle calls in the ballroom. The gentlemen run for their partners. The dancers bow to each other. The youth lies awake in the cedar-roofed garret and harks to the musical rain. The wolverine sets traps on the creek that helps fill the Huron. The squaw, wrapped in her yellow-hemmed cloth, is offering moccasins and bead bags for sale. The connoisseur peers along the exhibition gallery with half-shut eyes bent sideways. As the deckhands make fast the steamboat, the plank is thrown for the shore-going passengers. The young sister holds out the skein, while the elder sister winds it off in a ball and stops now and then for the knots. The one-year wife is recovering and happy, having a week ago born her first child. The clean-haired Yankee girl works with her sewing machine, or in the factory or mill. The 9 months gone is in the parturition chamber. Her faintness and pains are advancing.
The paving man leans on his two-headed rammer. The reporter's lead flies swiftly over the notebook. The sign painter is lettering with red and gold. The canal boy trots on the towpath. The bookkeeper keeps count at his desk. The shoemaker waxes his thread. The conductor beats time for the band, and all the performers follow him. The child is baptized. The convert is making his first professions. The regatta is spread on the bay. The race has begun. How the white sails sparkle. The drover, watching his drove, sings out to them that would stray. The peddler sweats with his pack on his back. The purchaser higgling about the odd cent. The camera and plate are prepared. The lady must sit for her daguerreotype. The bride unrumples her white dress. The minute hand of the clock moves slowly. The opium eater reclines with rigid head and just opened lips. The prostitute draggles her shawl. Her bonnet bobs on her tipsy and pimpled neck. The crowd laughs at her blackguard oaths. The men jeer and wink to each other. Miserable, I do not laugh at your oaths, nor jeer you. The president, holding a cabinet council, is surrounded by the great secretaries. On the piazza walk 3 matrons, stately and friendly with twined arms. The crew of the fish smack pack repeated layers of halibut in the hold. The Missourian crosses the plains, toting his wares and his cattle. As the fare collector goes through the train, he gives his notice by the jingling of loose change. The floormen are laying the floor, the tinners are tinning the roof, the masons are calling for mortar. In single file, each shouldering his hod, pass onwards to the laborers. Seasons are pursuing each other. The indescribable crowd is gathered. It is the 4th of the 7th month. What salutes of cannons and small arms. Seasons pursuing each other. The plower plows, the mower mows, and the winter grain falls to the ground. Off on the lakes, the pike fisher watches and waits by the hole in the frozen surface. The stumps stand thick round the clearing. The squatter strikes deep with his axe. Flat boatmen make fast towards dusk, near the cottonwood or pecan trees. Coon seekers go through the regions of Red River, or through those drained by the Tennessee, or through those of the Arkansas. Torches shine in the dark that hangs on the Chattahoochee or Altamaha. Patriarchs sit at supper with sons and grandsons and great-grandsons around them. In walls of the adobe, in canvas tents, rest hunters and trappers after their day's sport. The city sleeps and the country sleeps. The living sleep for their time, the dead sleep for their time. The old husband sleeps by his wife, and the young husband sleeps by his wife. And these one and all tend inward to me, and I tend outward to them. As such as it is to be of these, more or less, I am.
I am of old and young, of the foolish as much as the wise. Regardless of others, ever regardful of others. Maternal as well as paternal, a child as well as a man. Stuffed with the stuff that is coarse, and stuffed with the stuff that is fine. One of the great nation, the nation of many nations, the smallest the same, and the largest the same. A southerner as soon as a northerner, a planter nonchalant and hospitable, down by the Oconee I live. A Yankee bound by my own way, ready for trade, my joints the limberest joints on earth, and the sternest joints on earth. A Kentuckian, walking the vale of the Elkhorn in my deerskin leggings, a Louisianian or Georgian. A boatman over lakes or bays or along coasts, a Hoosier, Badger, Buckeye. At home on Canadian snowshoes or up in the bush or with fishermen off of Newfoundland. At home in the fleet of ice boats, sailing with the rest and tacking. At home on the hills of Vermont or in the woods of Maine or the Texan ranch. Comrade of Californians, comrade of free Northwesterners, loving their big proportions. Comrade of raftsmen and coalmen, comrade of all who shake hands and welcome of drink and meat. A learner with the simplest, a teacher of the thoughtfulest, a novice beginning, yet experient of myriad of seasons. Of every hue and caste am I, of every rank and religion. A farmer, mechanic, artist, gentleman, sailor, Quaker. A prisoner, fancy man, rowdy, lawyer, physician, priest. I resist anything better than my own diversity. I breathe the air but leave plenty after me. I am not stuck up and in my place. The moth and the fish eggs are in their place. The sun I see and the suns I cannot see are in their place. The palpable is in its place and the impalpable is in its place.
These are the thoughts of all men in all ages and lands. They are not original with me. If they are not yours as much as mine, they are nothing, or next to nothing. If they are not the riddle and the untying of riddle, they are nothing. If they are not just as close as they are distant, they are nothing. This is the grass that grows wherever the land is and the water is. This is the common air that bathes the globe. This is the breath of laws and songs and behavior. This is the tasteless water of souls. This is the true of sustenance. It is for the illiterate. It is for the judges of the Supreme Court. It is for the federal capital and the state capitals. It is for the admirable commune of literary men and composers and singers and lecturers and engineers and savants. It is for the endless races of working people and farmers and seamen.
This is the trill of 1,000 clear cornets and scream of the octave flute and strike of triangles. I play not marches for victors only. I play great marches for conquered and slain persons. Have you heard that it was good to gain the day? I also say it is good to fail. Battles are lost in the same spirit in which they are won. I sound triumphal drums for the dead. I fling through my embouchures my loudest and gayest music to them. Vivas to those who have failed, and to those whose war vessels sank in the sea, and to those themselves who sank in the sea, and to all generals that lost engagements, and all overcome heroes, and the numberless unknown heroes equal to the greatest heroes known.
This is the meal equally set. This is the meat and drink for natural hunger. It is for the wicked just the same as the righteous. I make appointments with all. I will not have a single person slighted or left away. The kept woman and sponger and thief are hereby invited. The slave is invited. The venereally is invited. There shall be no difference between them and the rest. This is the press of a bashful hand. This is the float and odor of hair. This is the touch of my lips to yours. This is the murmur of yearning. This is the far-off depth and height reflecting my own face. This is the thoughtful merge of myself in outlet again. Do you guess I have some intricate purpose? Well, I have, for the April rain has, and the mica on the side of a rock has. Do I take it I would astonish? Does the daylight astonish? Does the early red start twittering through the woods? Do I astonish more than they? This hour I tell things in confidence. I might not tell everybody, but I will tell you.
Who goes there? Hankering, gross, mystical, nude. How is it I extract strength from the beef I eat? What is a man, anyhow? What am I? What are you? All I mark as my own, you shall offset it with your own, else it were time lost listening to me. I do not snivel that snivel the world over, that months are vacuums and the ground but wallow and filth, that life is a suck and a sell, and nothing remains at the end but threadbare crepe and tears. Whimpering and truckling fold with powders for invalids. Conformity goes to the fourth removed. I cock my hat as I please, indoors or out. Shall I pray? Shall I venerate and be ceremonious? I have pried through the strata and analyzed to a hair, and counseled with doctors and calculated close, and found no sweeter fat than sticks to my own bones. In all people I see myself, none more and not one a barleycorn less. And the good or bad I say of myself, I say of them. And I know I am solid and sound. To me, the converging objects of the universe perpetually flow. All are written to me, and I must get what the writing means. And I know I am deathless. I know this orbit of mine cannot be swept by the carpenter's compass. I know I shall not pass like a child's carlacue cut with a burnt stick at night. I know I am august. I do not trouble my spirit to vindicate itself or be understood. I see that the elementary laws never apologize. I reckon I behave no prouder than the level I plant my house by, after all. I exist as I am. That is enough. If no other in the world be aware, I sit content. And if each and all be aware, I sit content. One world is aware, and by far the largest to me, and that is myself. And whether I come to my own today or in 10,000 or 10 million years, I can cheerfully take it now, or with equal cheerfulness, I can wait. My foothold is tenoned and mortised in granite. I laugh at what you call dissolution, and I know the amplitude of time.
I am the poet of the body, and I am the poet of the soul. The pleasures of heaven are with me, and the pains of hell are with me. The verse I graft and increase upon myself, the latter I translate into a new tongue. I am the poet of the woman, the same as the man, and I say it is as great to be a woman as to be a man. And I say there is nothing greater than the mother of men. I chant the chant of dilation or pride. We have had ducking and deprecating about enough. I know that size is only development. Have you outstripped the rest? Are you the president? It is a trifle. They will more than arrive there, everyone, and still pass on. I am he that walks with tender and growing night. I call to the earth and sea, half held by the night. Press close, bare bosom night. Press close, magnetic, nourishing night. Night of south winds, night of the large few stars. Still nodding night, mad, naked summer night. Smile, O voluptuous, cool breath earth. Earth of the slumbering and liquid trees. Earth of departed sunset. Earth of the mountains, misty topped. Earth of the vitreous pour of the full moon just tinged with blue. Earth of shine and dark, mottling the tide of the river. Earth of the limpid gray clouds, brighter and clearer for my sake. Far swooping elbowed earth, rich apple blossom earth. Smile, for your lover comes. Prodigal, you have given me love. Therefore I to you give love. Oh, unspeakable, passionate love.
You see, I resign myself to you also. I guess what you mean. I behold from the beach your crooked, inviting fingers. I believe you refuse to go back without feeling of me. We must have a turn together. I undress, hurry me out of sight of the land, cushion me soft, rock me in billowy drowse, dash me with amorous wet. I can repay you. Sea of stretched ground swells, sea breathing broad and convulsive breaths, sea of the brine of life, sea of unshoveled yet always ready graves, howler and scooper of storms, capricious and dainty sea. I am integral with you. I too am of one phase and of all phases. Partaker of influx and efflux, extoller of hate and conciliation, extoller of amis and those that sleep in each other's arms. I am he, attesting sympathy. Shall I make my list of things in the house and skip the house that supports them? I am the poet of common sense and of the demonstrable and of immortality. I am not the poet of goodness only. I do not decline to be the poet of wickedness also. Washes and razors for foo-foos. For me, freckles and a bristling beard. What blurt is it about virtue and about vice? Evil propels me, and reform of evil propels me. I stand indifferent. My gait is no fault finder's or rejector's gait. I moisten the roots of all that has grown. Did you fear some scrofula out of the unflagging pregnancy? Did you guess the celestial laws are yet to be worked over and rectified? I step up to say that what we do is right and what we affirm is right, and some is only the ore of right. Witnesses of us, one side a balance and the antipodal side a balance. Soft doctrine as steady help as stable doctrine. Thoughts and deeds of the present our rouse and early start. This minute that comes to me over the past decillions, there is no better than it, and now. What behaved well in the past, or behaves well today, is not such a wonder. The wonder is, always and always, how there can be a mean man or an infidel.
Endless unfolding of words of ages, and mine, a word of the modern, a word en masse, a word of the faith that never balks. One time as good as another time, here or henceforward, it is all the same to me. A word of reality, materialism first and last imbuing. Hurrah for positive science, long live exact demonstration. Fetch stone-cropped, mixed with cedar and branches of lilac. This is the lexicographer or chemist. This made a grammar of the old cartouches. These mariners put the ship through dangerous, unknown seas. This is the geologist, and this works with the scalpel, and this is a mathematician. Gentlemen, I receive you and attach and clasp hands with you. Your facts are useful and real, and yet they are not my dwelling. I enter by them to an area of the dwelling. I am less the reminder of properties or qualities, and more the reminder of life, and go on the square for my own sake and for others' sake, and make short account of neuters and geldings, and favor men and women fully equipped, and beat the gong of revolt, and stop with fugitives and them that plot and conspire.
Walt Whitman, an American, one of the roughs, a cosmos, disorderly, fleshy, and sensual, eating, drinking, and breeding. No sentimentalist, no stander above men and women, or apart from them, no more modest than immodest. Unscrew the locks from the doors, unscrew the doors themselves from their jambs. Whoever degrades another degrades me, and whatever is done or said returns at last to me, and whatever I do or say also return. Through me the afflatus surging and surging, through me the current and index. I speak the password primeval, I give the sign of democracy. By God, I will accept nothing which all cannot have their counterpart of on the same terms. Through me, many long dumb voices, voices of the interminable generations of slaves, voices of prostitutes and of deformed persons, voices of the diseased and despairing and of thieves and dwarfs, voices of cycles of preparation and accretion, and of the threads that connect the stars, and of wombs, and of the father stuff, and of the rights of them the others are down upon, of the trivial and flat and foolish and despised, of the fog in the air and beetles rolling balls of dung. Through me, forbidden voices, voices of sexes and lusts, voices veiled, and I remove the veil, voices indecent, by me, clarified and transfigured. I do not press my fingers across my mouth. I keep as delicate around the bowels as around the head and heart. Copulation is no more rank to me than death is. I believe in the flesh and the appetites. Seeing, hearing, and feeling are miracles, and each part and tag of me is a miracle. Divine am I, inside and out, and I make holy whatever I touch or am touched from. The scent of these armpits, aroma finer than prayer. This head is more than churches or Bibles or creeds. If I worship any particular thing, it shall be some of the spread of my own body. translucent mold of me, it shall be you. Shaded ledges and rests, firm masculine coulter, it shall be you. Whatever goes to the tilth of me, it shall be you. You, my rich blood, your milky stream, pale strippings of my life, breast that presses against other breasts, it shall be you. My brain, it shall be your occult convolutions, root of wash-sweet flag, timorous pond snipe, nest of guarded duplicate eggs, it shall be you. Mixed tousled hay of head and beard and brawn, it shall be you. Trickling sap and maple, fiber of manly wheat, it shall be you. Sun so generous, it shall be you. Vapors lighting and shading my face, it shall be you. You, sweaty brooks and dews, it shall be you. Winds whose soft tickling genitals rub against me, it shall be you. Broad muscular fields, branches of live oak, loving lounger in my winding paths, it shall be you. Hands I have taken, face I have kissed, mortal I have ever touched, it shall be you. I dote on myself, there is that lot of me, and all so luscious. Each moment and whatever happens thrills me with joy. I cannot tell how my ankles bend, nor whence the cause of my faintest wish, nor the cause of the friendship I emit, nor the cause of the friendship I take again. To walk up my stoop is unaccountable. I pause to consider if it really be. That I eat and drink is spectacle enough for the great authors and schools. A morning glory at my window satisfies me more than the metaphysics of books. To behold the daybreak, the little light fades, the immense and diaphanous shadows, the air tastes good to my palate. Hefts of the moving world at innocent gambols, silently rising, freshly exuding, scooting obliquely high and low. Something I cannot see puts upward libidinous prongs. Seas of bright juice suffuse heaven. The earth by the sky stayed with the daily close of their junction. The heaved challenge from the east, that moment over my head, the mocking taunt. See then whether you shall be master.
Dazzling and tremendous, how quick the sunrise would kill me. If I could not now and always send sunrise out of me. We also ascend, dazzling and tremendous as the sun. We found our own, oh, my soul, in the calm and cool of the daybreak. My voice goes after what my eyes cannot reach. With the twirl of my tongue, I encompass worlds and volumes of worlds. Speech is the twin of my vision. It is unequal to measure itself. It provokes me forever. It says sarcastically, Walt, you understand enough. Why don't you let it out then? Come now, I will not be tantalized. You concede too much of articulation. Do you not know, O speech, how the buds beneath you are folded? Waiting in gloom, protected by frost, the dirt receding before my prophetical screams. I, underlying causes to balance them at last. My knowledge, my life parts, it keeping tally with the meaning of things. Happiness, which whoever hears me, let him or her set out in search of this day. My final merit, I refuse you. I refuse putting from me the best I am. Encompass worlds, but never try to encompass me. I crowd your noisiest talk by looking toward you. Writing and talk do not prove me. I carry the plenum of proof and everything else in my face. With the hush of my lips, I confound the topmost skeptic.
I think I will do nothing for a long time but listen and accrue what I hear into myself to let sounds contribute toward me. I hear bravuras of birds, bustle of growing wheat, gossip of flames, clack of sticks cooking my meals. I hear the sound of the human voice, a sound I love. I hear all sounds as they are tuned to their uses, sounds of the city, sounds out of the city, sounds of the day and night, talkative young ones to those that like them, the recitative of fish peddlers and fruit peddlers, the loud laugh of work people at their meals, the angry bass of disjointed friendship, the faint tones of the sick. The judge with hands tight to the desk, his shaky lips pronouncing a death sentence. The heave-ye-yo of stevedores unlading ships by the wharfs, the refrain of the anchor lifters, the ring of alarm bells, the cry of fire, the whir of swift streaking engines and hose carts with premonitory tinkles and colored lights. The steam whistle, the solid roll of the train approaching cars, the slow march played at the head of the association. They go to guard some corpse. The flag tops are draped with black muslin. I hear the violoncello or man's heart's complaint. I hear the keyed cornet or else the echo of sunset. I hear the chorus. It is a grand opera. This is indeed music. A tenor large and fresh as the creation fills me. The orbic flex of his mouth is pouring and filling me full. I hear the trained soprano. She convulses me like the climax of my love grip. The orchestra whirls me wider than Uranus flies. It wrenches unnameable ardors from my breast. It throbs me to gulps of the farthest down horror. It sails me. I dab with bare feet. They are licked by the indolent waves. I am exposed, cut by bitter and poisoned hail, steeped amid honeyed morphine, my windpipe squeezed in the fakes of death. Let up again to feel the puzzle of puzzles, and that we call being.
To be in any form, what is that? If nothing lay more developed, the quahog and his cowshell shell were enough. Mine is no cowshell shell. I have instant conductors all over me, whether I pass or stop. They seize every object and lead it harmlessly through me. I merely stir, press, feel with my fingers, and am happy. To touch my person to someone else's is about as much as I can stand.
Is this then a touch, quivering me to a new identity? Flames in ether making a rush for my veins. Treacherous tips of me reaching and crowding to help them. My flesh and blood playing out lightning to strike what is hardly different from myself. On all sides, prurient provokers stiffening my limbs, straining the udder of my heart for its withheld drip. Behaving licentious towards me, taking no denial. Depriving me of my best, as for a purpose. Unbuttoning my clothes and holding me by the bare waist. Diluting my confusion with the calm of the sunlight and pasture fields, immodestly sliding the fellow senses away. They bribe to swap off with touch and go and graze at the edges of me. No consideration, no regard for my draining strength or my anger. Fetching the rest of the herd around to enjoy them a while, then all uniting to stand at a headland and worry me. The centuries desert every other part of me. They have left me helpless to a red marauder. They all come to the headland to witness and assist against me. I am given up by traitors. I talk wildly. I have lost all my wits. I and nobody else am the greatest traitor. I myself first to the headland. My own hands carried me there. You villain touch, what are you doing? My breath is tight in its throat. Unclench your floodgates. You are too much for me.
Blind, loving, wrestling touch, sheathed, hooded, sharp-toothed touch. Did it make you ache so, leaving me? Parting tracked by arriving, perpetual payment of perpetual loan, rich showering rain, and recompense richer afterward. Sprouts take and accumulate, stand by the curb prolific and vital. Landscapes projected, masculine, full-sized, and golden.
All truths wait in all things. They neither hasten their own delivery nor resist it. They do not need the obstetric forceps of the surgeon. The insignificant is as big to me as any. What is less or more than a touch? Logic and sermons never convince. The damp of the night drives deeper into my soul. Only what proves itself to every man and woman is so. Only what nobody denies is so. A minute and a drop of me settle my brain. I believe the soggy clods shall become lovers and lamps, and a compend of compends is the meat of a man or woman. And a summit and flower, there is a feeling they have for each other, and they are to branch boundlessly out of that lesson until it becomes omnific, and until every one shall delight us, and we them.
I believe a leaf of grass is no less than the journeyed work of the stars, and the pismire is equally perfect, and a grain of sand, and the egg of the wren, and the tree toad is a chef-d'oeuvre for the highest, and the running blackberry would adorn the parlors of heaven, and the narrowest hinge in my hand puts to scorn all machinery, and the cow crunching with depressed head surpasses any statue, and the mouse is miracle enough to stagger sextillions of infidels. And I could come every afternoon of my life to look at the farmer's girl boiling her iron tea kettle and baking shortcake. I find I incorporate gneiss and coal and long-threaded moss and fruits and grains, esculent roots, and am stuccoed with quadrupeds and birds all over, and have distanced what is behind me for good reasons, and call anything close again when I desire it. In vain the speeding or shyness. In vain the plutonic rocks send their old heat against my approach. In vain the mastodon retreats beneath its own powdered bones. In vain objects stand leagues off and assume manifold shapes. In vain the ocean settling in hollows and the great monsters lying low. In vain the buzzard houses herself with the sky. In vain the snake slides through the creepers and logs. In vain the elk takes to the inner passes of the woods. In vain the razor-billed auk sails far north to Labrador. I follow quickly. I ascend to the nest in the fissure of the cliff.
I think I could turn and live a while with animals. They are so placid and self-contained. I stand and look at them sometimes half the day long. They do not sweat and whine about their condition. They do not lie awake in the dark and weep for their sins. They do not make me sick discussing their duty to God. Not one is dissatisfied. Not one is demented with the mania of owning things. Not one kneels to another, nor to his kind that lived thousands of years ago. Not one is respectable or industrious over the whole earth. So they show their relations to me, and I accept them. They bring me tokens of myself. They evince them plainly in their possession. I do not know where they got those tokens. I must have passed that way untold times ago and negligently dropped them. Myself moving forward, then and now and forever, gathering and showing more always with velocity. Infinite and omnigenous, and the like of these among them. Not too exclusive toward the reachers of my remembrancers. Picking out here one that shall be mine, a me. Choosing to go with him on brotherly terms. A gigantic beauty of a stallion, fresh and responsive to my caresses. Head high in the forehead, wide between the ears. Limbs glossy and supple, tail dusting the ground. Eyes well apart and full of sparkling wickedness. Ears finely cut and flexibly moving. His nostrils dilate. My heels embrace him. His well-beat limbs tremble with pleasure. We speed around and return. I but use you a moment, and then I resign you, stallion, and do not need your paces, and outgallop them, and myself, as I stand or sit, pass faster than you.
Swift wind, space, my soul. Now I see it is true, what I guessed at, what I guessed when I loafed on the grass, what I guessed while I lay alone in my bed. And again, as I walk the beach under the paling stars of the morning. My ties and ballasts lead me. I travel, I sail. My elbows rest in the sea gaps. I skirt the Sierras. My palms cover continents. I am afoot with my vision. By the city's quadrangular houses in log huts or camping with lumbermen, along the ruts of the turnpike, along the dry gulch and rivulet bed, weeding my onion patch and rows of carrots and parsnips, crossing savannas, trailing in forests, prospecting, gold digging, girdling the trees of a new purchase. Scorched ankle deep by the hot sand, hauling my boat down the shallow river, where the panther walks to and fro on a limb overhead, where the buck turns furiously at the hunter, where the rattlesnake suns his flabby length on a rock, where the otter is feeding on fish, where the alligator in his tough pimples sleeps by the bayou, where the black bear is searching for roots or honey, where the beaver pats the mud with his paddle-shaped tail, over the growing sugar, over the cotton plant, over the rice in its low, moist field, over the sharp-peaked farmhouse with its scalloped scum and slender shoots from the gutters, over the western persimmon, over the long-leaved corn and the delicate blue-flowered flax, over the white and brown buckwheat, a hummer and buzzer there with the rest, over the dusky green of the rye as it ripples and shades in the breeze, scaling mountains, pulling myself cautiously up, holding on by low, scragged limbs, walking the path worn in the grass and beat through the leaves of the brush, where the quail is whistling betwixt the woods and the wheat lot, where the bat flies in the July eve, where the great gold bug drops through the dark, where flails keep time on the barn floor, where the brook puts out of the roots of the old tree and flows to the meadow, where cattle stand and shake away flies with the tremulous shuddering of their hides, where the cheesecloth hangs in the kitchen, and andirons straddle the hearth slab, and cobwebs fall in festoons from the rafters, where trip hammers crash, where the press is whirling its cinders, wherever the human heart beats with terrible throes under its ribs.
Where the pear-shaped balloon is floating aloft, floating in it myself and looking composedly down, where the life car is drawn on the slip noose, where the heat hatches pale green eggs in the dented sand, where the she-whale swims with her calves and never forsakes them, where the steamship trails hindways its long pennant of smoke, where the fin of the shark cuts like a black chip out of the water, where the half-burned brig is riding on unknown currents, where shells grow to her slimy deck and the dead are corrupting below, where the striped and starred flag is borne at the head of the regiments, approaching Manhattan up by the long stretching island. Under Niagara, the cataract falling like a veil over my countenance. Upon a doorstep, upon the horse block of hardwood outside, upon the race course, or enjoying picnics, or jigs, or a good game of baseball. At he festivals with blackguard jibes and ironical license, and bull dances and drinking and laughter. At the cider mill, tasting the sweet of the brown mash, sucking the juice through a straw. At apple peelings, wanting kisses for all the red fruit I find. At musters and beach parties and friendly bees and huskings and house raisings, where the mockingbird sounds his delicious gurgles and cackles and screams and weeps, where hayrick stands in the barnyard, and the dry stalks are scattered, and the brood cow waits in the hovel, where the bull advances to do his masculine work, and the stud to the mare, and the cock is treading the hen, where heifers browse and geese nip their food with short jerks, where sundown shadows lengthen over the limitless and lonesome prairie, where the herds of buffalo make a crawling spread of the square miles far and near, where the hummingbird shimmers, where the neck of the long-lived swan is curving and winding, where the laughing gull scoots by the slappy shore and laughs her near human laugh, where beehives range on a gray bench in the garden, half hid by the high weeds, where band-necked partridges roost in a ring on the ground with their heads out,
where burial coaches enter the arched gates of a cemetery, where the winter wolves bark amid wastes of snow and icicle trees, where the yellow-crowned heron comes to the edge of the marsh at night and feeds upon small crabs, where the splash of swimmers and divers cools the warm noon, where the katydid works her chromatic reed on the walnut tree over the well, through patches of citrons and cucumbers with silver-wired leaves, through the salt lick or orange glade or under conical firs, through the gymnasium, through the curtained saloon, through the office or public hall, pleased with the native and pleased with the foreign, pleased with the new and old, pleased with women, the homely as well as the handsome, pleased with the Quakeress as she puts off her bonnet and talks melodiously, pleased with the primitive tunes of the choir of the whitewashed church, pleased with the earnest words of the sweating Methodist preacher or any preacher, looking seriously at the camp meeting, looking in at the shop windows of Broadway the whole forenoon, pressing the flesh of my nose to the thick plate glass, wandering the same afternoon with my face turned up to the clouds, my right and left arms round the side of two friends, and I in the middle. Far from the settlements, studying the print of animals' feet or the moccasin print, by the cot in the hospital, reaching lemonade to a feverish patient, nigh the coffined corpse when all is still, examining with a candle, voyaging to every port to dicker and adventure, hurrying with the modern crowd, as eager and fickle as any, hot toward one I hate, ready in my madness to knife him, solitary at midnight in my backyard, my thoughts gone from me a long while, walking the old hills of Judea with the beautiful, gentle God by my side, speeding through space, speeding through heaven and the stars, speeding amid the 7 satellites and the broad ring and the diameter of 80,000 miles, speeding with tailed meteors, throwing fireballs like the rest, carrying the crescent child that carries its own full mother in its belly, storming, enjoying, planning, loving, cautioning, backing and filling, appearing and disappearing. I tread day and night such roads.
I visit the orchards of God and look at the spheric product, and look at quintillions ripened, and look at quintillions green. I fly the flight of the fluid and swallowing soul. My course runs below the soundings of plummets. I help myself to material and immaterial. No guard can shut me off. No law can prevent me. I anchor my ship for a little while only. My messengers continually cruise away or bring their returns to me. I go hunting polar furs and the seal, leaping chasms with a pike-pointed staff, clinging to topples of brittle and blue. I ascend to the foretruck. I take my place late at night in the crow's nest. We sail the Arctic Sea. It is plenty light enough. Through the clear atmosphere, I stretch around on the wonderful beauty. The enormous masses of ice pass me, and I pass them. The scenery is plain in all directions. The white-topped mountains point up in the distance. I fling out my fancies toward them. We are about approaching some great battlefield in which we are soon to be engaged. We pass the colossal outposts of the encampment. We pass with still feet and caution, or we are entering by the suburbs some vast and ruined city, the blocks and fallen architecture more than all the living cities of the globe. I am a free companion. I bivouac by invading watchfires. I turn the bridegroom out of bed and stay with the bride myself. I tighten her all night to my thighs and lips. My voice is the wife's voice, the screech by the rail of the stairs. They fetch my man's body up, dripping and drowned. I understand the large hearts of heroes, the courage of present times and all times, how the skipper saw the crowded and rudderless wreck of the steamship and death chasing it up and down the storm, how he knuckled tight and gave not back 1 inch and was faithful of days and faithful of nights and chalked in large letters on a board, "Be of good cheer, we will not desert you." How he saved the drifting company at last, how the lank, loose-gowned women looked when boated from the side of their prepared graves, how the silent, old-faced infants and the lifted sick and the sharp-lipped, unshaved men, all this I swallow, and it tastes good. I like it well, and it becomes mine. I am the man. I suffered. I was there. The disdain and calmness of olden martyrs, the mother condemned for a witch, burnt with dry wood and her children gazing on, the hounded slave that flags in the race and leans by the fence, blowing and covered with sweat, the twinges that sting like needles his legs and neck, the murderous buckshot and the bullets, all these I feel, or am. I am the hounded slave. I wince at the bite of the dogs. Hell and despair are upon me. Crack and again crack the marksman. I clutch the rails of the fence. My gore dribs, thinned with the ooze of my skin. I fall on the weeds and stones. The riders spur their unwilling horses and haul close. They taunt my dizzy ears. They beat me violently over the head with whipstocks. Agonies are one of my changes of garments. I do not ask the wounded person how he feels. I myself become the wounded person. My hurts turn livid upon me as I lean on a cane and observe. I am the mashed fireman with breastbone broken, tumbling walls buried me in their debris. Head and smoke I inspired. I heard the yelling shouts of my comrades. I heard the distant click of their picks and shovels. They have cleared the beams away. They tenderly lift me forth. I lie in the night in my red shirt. The pervading hush is for my sake. Painless after all I lie, exhausted but not so unhappy. White and beautiful are the faces around me. The heads are bared of their fire caps. The kneeling crowd fades with the light of the torches. Distant and dead resuscitate. They show as the dial or move as the hands of me, and I am the clock myself. I am an old artillerist and tell of some fort's bombardment and am there again. Again the long roll of the drummers, again the attacking cannon and mortars and howitzers, again the attacked send their cannon responsive. I take part, I see and hear the whole, the cries and curses and roar, the plaudits for well-aimed shots, the ambulanza slowly passing and trailing its red drip. Workmen searching after damages and to make indispensable repairs, the fall of grenades through the rent roof, the fan-shaped explosion, the whiz of limbs, heads, stone, wood, and iron high in the air. Again gurgles the mouth of my dying general. He furiously waves with his hand. He gasps through the clot, "Mind not me, mind the entrenchments."
I tell not the fall of Alamo. Not one escaped to tell the fall of Alamo. The 150 are dumb yet at Alamo. Hear now the tale of a jet-black sunrise. Hear of the murder in cold blood of 412 young men. Retreating, they had formed in a hollow square with their baggage for breastworks. 900 lives out of the surrounding enemies. 9 times their number was the price they took in advance. Their colonel was wounded and their ammunition gone. They treated for an honorable capitulation, received writing and seal, gave up their arms, and marched back prisoners of war. They were the glory of the race of rangers, matchless with horse, a rifle, a song, a supper, or a courtship. Large, turbulent, generous, handsome, proud, and affectionate. Bearded, sunburnt, dressed in the free costume of hunters, not a single one over 30 years of age. The second first day morning, they were brought out in squads and massacred. It was a beautiful early summer. The work was commenced about 5 o'clock and was over by 8. None obeyed the command to kneel. Some made a mad and helpless rush. Some stood stark and straight. A few fell at once, shot in the temple or heart. The living and dead lay together. The maimed and mangled dug in the dirt. The newcomers saw them there. Some, half killed, attempted to crawl away. These were dispatched with bayonets or battered with the blunts of muskets. A youth not 17 years old and seized his assassin till 2 more came to release him. The 3 were all torn and covered with the boy's blood. At 11 o'clock began the burning of the bodies, and that is the tale of the murder of the 412 young men, and that was a jet black sunrise.
Did you read in the sea books of the old-fashioned frigate fight? Did you learn who won by the light of the moon and stars? List to the story as my grandmother's father, the sailor, told me. Our foe was no skulk in his ship, I tell you. His was the surly English pluck, and there is no tougher or truer, and never was and never will be. Along the lowered eve he came, horribly raking us. We closed with him, the yards entangled, the cannon touched. My captain last fashed with his own hands. We had received some 18-pound shots under the water. On our lower gun deck, 2 large pieces had burst at the first fire, killing all around and blowing up overhead. 10 o'clock at night, the full moon shining and the leaks on the gain, and 5 feet of water reported. The master at arms loosing the prisoners confined in the afterhold to give them a chance for themselves. The transit to and from the magazine was now stopped by the sentinels. They saw so many strange faces, they do not know whom to trust. Our frigate takes fire. The other asks if we demanded quarters, if our colors were struck and the fighting done. I laughed content when I hear the voice of my little captain. We have not struck, he composedly cried. We have just begun our part of the fighting. Only 3 guns in use. 1 was directed by the captain himself against the enemy's mainmast. 2 well served with grape and canister silenced his musketry and cleared his decks. The tops alone seconded the fire of this little battery, especially the main top. They all held out bravely during the whole of the action. Not a moment cease. The leaks gained fast on the pumps. The fire eat toward the powder magazine. One of the pumps was shot away. It was generally thought, we are sinking. Serene stood the little captain. He was not hurried. His voice was neither high nor low. His eyes gave more light to us than our battle lanterns. Toward 12 at night, there, in the beams of the moon, they surrendered to us.
Stretched and still lay the midnight. 2 great hulls motionless on the breast of the darkness. Our vessel riddled and slowly sinking, preparations to pass to the one we had conquered. The captain on the quarterdeck coldly giving his orders through a countenance white as a sheet. Nearby, the corpse of the child that served in the cabin. The dead face of an old salt with long white hair and carefully curled whiskers. The flames, spite of all that can be done, flickering aloft and below. The husky voices of the 2 or 3 officers, yet fit for duty. Formless stacks of bodies, and bodies by themselves. Dabs of flesh upon the masts and spars. The cut of cordage and dangle of rigging. The slight shock of the soothe of waves. Black and impassive guns and litter of powder parcels. And the strong scent. Delicate sniffs of sea breeze. Smells of sedgy grass and fields by the shore. Death messages given in charge to survivors. The hiss of the surgeon's knife the gnawing teeth of his saw. The wheeze, the cluck, the swash of falling blood, the short wild scream, the long, dull, tapering groan. These irretrievable.
O Christ, my fit is mastering me. What the rebel said gaily, adjusting his throat to the rope noose. What the savage at the stump, his eye sockets empty, his mouth spurting whoops in defiance. What stills the traveler comes to the vault at Mount Vernon. What sobers the Brooklyn boy as he looks down the shores of the Wallabout and remembers the prison ships. What burnt the gums of the redcoat at Saratoga when he surrendered his brigades. These become mine, in me every one, and they are but little. I become as much or more as I like. I become any present or truth of humanity here, and see myself in prison shaped like another man, and feel the dull, unintermitted pain. For me, the keepers of convicts shoulder their carbines and keep watch. It is I let out in the morning and barred at night. Not a mutineer walks handcuffed to jail, but I am handcuffed to him and walk by his side. I am less the jolly one there and more the silent one, with sweat on my twitching lips. Not a youngster is taken for larceny, but I go up too and am tried and sentenced. Not a cholera patient lies at the last gasp, but I also lie at the last gasp. My face is ash-colored, my sinews gnarl, away from me people retreat. Askers embody themselves in me, and I am embodied in them. I project my hat, sit shamefaced, and beg. I rise ecstatic through it all, and sweep with true gravitation. The whirling and whirling is elemental within me.
Somehow I have been stunned. Stand back. Give me a little time beyond my cuffed head and slumbers and dreams and gaping. I discover myself on the verge of a usual mistake, that I could forget the mockers and insults, that I could forget the trickling tears and the blows of the bludgeons and hammers, that I could look with a separate look on my own crucifixion and bloody crowning. I remember. I resume the overstayed fraction. The grave of rock multiplies what has been confined to it or to any graves. The corpses rise, the gashes heal, the fastenings roll away. I troop forth replenished with supreme power, one of an average, unending procession. We walk the roads of Ohio and Massachusetts and Virginia and Wisconsin and New York and New Orleans and Texas and Montreal and San Francisco and Charleston and Savannah and Mexico. Inland and by sea coast and boundary lines, and we pass the boundary lines, our swift ordinances on their way over the whole earth. The blossoms we wear in our hats are the growth of 2,000 years. The leaves, I salute you. Come forward. I see the approach of your numberless gangs. I see you understand yourselves and me. And now that they who have eyes are divine, and the blind and lame are equally divine, and that my steps drag behind you, yet you go before them, and are aware how I am with you, no more than I am with everybody.
The friendly and flowing savage, who is he? Is he waiting for civilization or past it and mastering it? Is he some Southwesterner raised out of doors? Is he Canadian? Is he from the Mississippi country, Iowa, Oregon, California? The mountains, prairie life, bush life, or a sailor from the sea? Where he goes, men and women accept and desire him. They desire he should like them, touch them, speak to them, stay with them. Behavior lawless as snowflakes, words simple as grass, uncombed head, laughter and naivete, slow stepping feet, common features, common modes and emanations. They descend in new forms from the tips of his fingers. They are wafted with the odor of his body or breath. They fly out of the glance of his eyes.
Flaunt of the sunshine, I need not your mask. Lie over. You light surfaces only. I force the surfaces and the depths also. Earth, you seem to look for something at my hands. Say, old talk now, what do you want? Man or woman, I might tell how I like you, but cannot. I might tell what it is in me and what it is in you, but cannot. I might tell that pining I have, that pulse of my nights and days. Behold, I do not give lectures or a little charity. When I give out of myself. You there, impotent, loose in the knees, open your scarf chops till I blow grit within you. Spread your palms and lift the flaps of your pockets. I am not to be denied. I compel. I have stories plenty and to spare. And anything I have, I bestow. I do not ask who you are. That is not important to me. You can do nothing and be nothing but what I will enfold you. To a drudge of the cotton fields or emptier of privies I lean. On his right cheek I put the family kiss, and in my soul I swear I never will deny him. On women fit for conception, I start bigger and nimbler babes. This day, I am jetting the stuff of far more arrogant republics. To anyone dying, thither I speed and twist the knob of the door. Turn the bedclothes toward the foot of the bed, let the physician and the priest go home. I seize the descending man and raise him with resistless will. O despairer, here is my neck. By God, you shall not go down. Hang your whole weight upon me. I dilate you with tremendous breath. I buoy you up. Every room in the house do I fill with an armed force. Lovers of me, bafflers of graves, sleep. I and they keep guard all night. No doubt, not deceased shall dare to lay finger upon you. I have embraced you, and henceforth possess you to myself. And when you rise in the morning, you will find what I tell you is so.
I am he bringing help for the sick as they pant on their backs. And for strong, upright men, I bring yet more needed help. I heard what was said of the universe, heard it, and heard it of several thousand years. It is middling well as far as it goes. But is that all? Magnifying and applying come I, outbidding at the start the cautious hucksters. The most they offer to mankind in eternity less than a spirit of my own seminal wet. Taking myself the exact dimensions of Jehovah and laying them away. Lithographing Kronos and Zeus his son and Hercules his grandson. Buying drafts of Osiris and Isis, Belus and Brahma and Buddha and Adonai. In my portfolio, placing Manito loose, Allah on a leaf, and the crucifix engraved. With Odin and the hideous-faced Mexitili, and all of idols and images, honestly, taking them all for what they are worth and not a cent more. Admitting they were alive and did the work of their days. Admitting they bore mites, as for unfledged birds who have now to rise and fly and sing for themselves. Accepting the rough, deific sketches to fill out better in myself, bestowing them freely on each man and woman I see. Discovering as much or more in a framer framing a house. Putting higher claims for him, there was this rolled up sleeve, driving the mallet and chisel. But objecting to special revelations, considering a curl of smoke or a hair on the back of my hand just as curious as any revelation. Those a hold of fire engines and hook and ladder ropes, more to me than the gods of the antique wars, minding their voices peal through the crash of destruction, their brawny limbs passing safe over charred lathes, their foreheads whole and unhurt of the flames. By the mechanic's wife, with her babe at her nipple, interceding for every person born. 3 scythes at harvest whizzing in a row from 3 lusty angels with shirts bagged out at their waists. The snaggletooth hustler with red hair redeeming sins, past and to come. selling all he possesses, traveling on foot to feast lawyers for his brother and sit by him while he is tried for forgery. What was strewn in the amplish strewing, the square rod about me and not feeling the square rod then. The bull and the bug never worshipped half enough. Dung and dirt more admirable than was dreamed. The supernatural of no account, myself waiting, my time to be one of the supremes. The day getting ready for me when I shall do as much good as the best and be as prodigious. Guessing when I am, it will not tickle me much to receive puffs out of pulpit or print. By my life lumps, becoming already a creator, putting myself here and now to the ambushed womb of the shadows.
A call in the midst of the crowd, my own voice orotone, sweeping and final. Come, my children, come, my boys and girls, my women and household and intimates. Now the performer launches his nerve. He has passed his prelude on the reeds within. Easily written, loose-fingered chords, I feel the thrum of your climax and close. My head evolves on my neck. Music rolls, but not from the organ. Folks are around me, but they are no household of mine. Ever the hard and unsunk ground, ever the eaters and drinkers, ever the upward and downward sun, ever the air and the ceaseless tides. Ever myself and my neighbors, refreshing and wicked and real. Ever the old inexplicable query, ever the thorn thumb that breathe of inches and thirst. Ever the vexers, hoot hoot, till we find where the sly one hides and bring him forth. Ever love, ever the sobbing liquid of life. Ever the bandage under the chin, ever the trestles of death. Here and there, with dimes on the eyes, walking to feed the greed of the belly, the brains liberally spooning, tickets buying or taking or selling, but in the feast never once going. Many sweating and plowing and thrashing, and then the chaff for payment receiving. A few idly owing, and they the wheat continuously claiming. This is the city, and I'm one of the citizens. Whatever interests the rest interests me. Politics, churches, newspapers, schools, benevolent societies, improvements, banks, tariffs, steamships, factories, markets, stocks and stories and real estate and personal estate. They who piddle and patter here in collars and tailed coats, I'm aware who they are and that they are not worms or fleas. I acknowledge the duplicates of myself under all the scrape-lipped and pipe-legged concealments. The weakest and shallowest is deathless with me. What I do and say, the same waits for them. Every thought that flounders in me, the same flounders in them. I know perfectly well my own egotism and know my omnivorous words and cannot say any less and would fetch you, whoever you are, flesh with myself. My words are of a questioning and to indicate a reality. The printed and bound book, but the printer and the printing office boy. The marriage, estate, and settlement, but the body and mind of the bridegroom, and also those of the bride. The well-taken photographs, but your wife or friends close and solid in your arms. The fleet of ships of the line and all the modern improvements, but the craft and plunk of the admiral. The dishes and fare and furniture, but the host and hostesses and the look out of their eyes. The sky up there, yet here, or next door, or across the way. The saints and sages in history, but you yourself. Sermons, creeds, theology, but the human brain, and what is the reason, and what is love, and what is called life.
I do not despise you, priests. My faith is the greatest of faiths and the least of faiths, enclosing all worship, ancient and modern, and all between ancient and modern. Believing I shall come again upon the earth after 5,000 years. Waiting responses from oracles, honoring the gods, saluting the sun. Making a fetish of the first rock or stump, powwowing with sticks in the circle of obese. Helping the lama or Brahmin as he trims the lamps of the idols. Dancing yet through the streets in a phallic procession, wrapped and austere in the woods, a gymnastophist. drinking mead from the skull cup, to Shasta and Veda's admirant, minding the Quran, walking the teocallis, spotted with gore from the stone and knife, beating the serpent skin drum, accepting the Gospels, accepting him that was crucified, knowing assuredly that he is divine. To the mass kneeling, to the Puritans' prayer rising, sitting patiently in a pew, ranting and frothing in my insane crisis, waiting dead-like till my spirit arouses me, looking forth on pavement and land, and outside of pavement and land, belonging to the winders of circuits. One of that centripetal and centrifugal gang, I turn and talk like a man leaving charges before a journey. Downhearted doubters, dull and excluded, frivolous, sullen, moping, angry, affected, disheartened, atheistical. I know every one of you and know the unspoken interrogatories. By experience, I know them. How the flukes splash, how they contort, rapid as lightning, with spasms and spouts of blood. Be at peace, bloody flukes of doubters and sullen mopers. I take my place among you as much as among any. The past is the push of you and me, and all precisely the same. And what is yet untried and afterward is for you and me and all. I do not know what is untried and afterward, but I know it is sure and alive and sufficient. Each who passes is considered, and each who stops is considered, and not a single one can it fail. It cannot fail the young man who died and was buried, nor the young woman who died and was put by his side, nor the little child that peeped in at the door and then drew back and was never seen again, nor the old man who has lived without purpose and fills it with bitterness worse than gall, nor him in the poorhouse, tubercle by rum and the bad disorder, nor the numberless slaughtered and wrecked, nor the kobu call the ordure of humanity, nor the sacks merely floating with open mouths for food to slip in, nor anything in the earth or down in the oldest graves of the earth, nor anything in the myriads of spheres, nor one of the myriads of myriads that inhabit them, nor the present, nor the least wisp that is known.
It is time to explain myself. Let us stand up. What is known, I strip away. I launch all men and women forward, with me, into the unknown. The clock indicates the moment. But what does eternity indicate? Eternity lies in bottomless reservoirs. Its buckets are rising forever and ever. They pour and they pour and they exhale away. We have thus far exhausted trillions of winters and summers. There are trillions ahead and trillions ahead of them. Births have brought us richness and variety, and other births will bring us richness and variety. I do not call one greater and one smaller. That which fills its period and place is equal to any. Were mankind murderous or jealous upon you, my brother or my sister? I am sorry for you. They are not murderous or jealous upon me. All has been gentle with me. I keep no account of lamentation. What have I to do with lamentation? I am an acme of things accomplished, an encloser of things to be. My feet strike an apex of the apices of the stairs. On every step, bunches of ages, and larger bunches between the steps. And below, duly traveled, and still I mount and mount. Rise after rise, bow the phantoms behind me. Afar down, I see the huge first nothing, the vapor from the nostrils of death. I know I was even there. I waited unseen, and always, and slept while God carried me through the lethargic mist, and took my time, and took no hurt from the fetid carbon. Long I was hugged close, long and long. Immense have been the preparations for me, faithful and friendly the arms that have helped me. Cycles ferried my cradle, rowing and rowing like cheerful boatmen. For room to me, stars kept aside in their own rings. They sent influences to look after what was to hold me. Before I was born out of my mother, generations guided me. My embryo has never been torpid. Nothing could overlay it. For it, the nublia, cohered to an orb, the long, slow strata piled to rest on it. Vast vegetables gave it sustenance. Monstrous sauroids transported it in their mouths and deposited it with care. All forces have been steadily employed to complete and delight me. Now, I stand on the spot with my soul.
Span of youth, ever pushed elasticity, manhood balanced and floored and full. My lovers suffocate me, crowding my lips, thicken the pores of my skin, jostling me through streets and public halls, coming to me at night, crying by day, ahoy, from the rocks of the river, swinging and chirping over my head, calling my name from flower beds or vines or tangled underbrush, or while I swim in the bath, or drink from the pump at the corner, or the curtain is down at the opera, or I glimpse a woman's face in the railroad car, lighting on every moment of my life, bussing my body with soft, balsamic busses, noiselessly passing handfuls out of their hearts and giving them to be mine. Old age superbly rising, ineffable grace of dying days. Every condition promulges not only itself, it promulges what grows after and out of itself. And the dark hush promulges as much as any. I open my scuttle at night and see the far sprinkled systems. And all I see, multiplied as high as I can cipher, edge but the rim of the farther systems. Wider and wider they spread, expanding, always expanding, outward and forever outward. My son has his son, and round him obediently wheels. He joins with his partners a group of superior circuit, and greater sets follow, making specks of the greatest inside them. There is no stoppage and never can be stoppage. If I and you and the worlds and all beneath or upon their surfaces and all the palpable life were this moment reduced back to a pallid float, it would not avail in the long run. We should surely bring up again where we now stand, and as surely go as much farther, and then farther and farther. A few quadrillions of eras and a few octillions of cubic leagues do not hazard the span or make it impatient. They are all but parts. Anything is but a part. See, ever so far, there is limitless space outside of that. Count ever so much, there is limitless time around that. Our rendezvous is fitly appointed. God will be there and wait till we come.
I know I have the best of time and space and was never measured and never will be measured. I tramp a perpetual journey. My signs are a rainproof coat and good shoes and a staff cut. No friend of mine takes his ease in my chair. I have no chair, nor church, nor philosophy. I lead no man to a dinner table or library or exchange, but each man and each woman of you I lead upon a knoll. My left hand hooks you round the waist. My right hand points to landscapes of continents and a plain public road. It is not far, it is within reach. Perhaps you have been on it since you were born and did not know. Perhaps it is everywhere on water and on land. Shoulder your duds, and I will mine, and let us hasten forth. Wonderful cities and free nations we shall fetch as we go. If you tire, give me both burdens, and rest the chuff of your hand on my hip, and in due time you shall repay the same service to me. For after we start, we never lie by again. This day before dawn, I ascended a hill and I looked at the crowded heaven. And I said to my spirit, when we become the enfolders of those orbs and the pleasure and knowledge of everything in them, shall we be filled and satisfied then? And my spirit said, no, we but level that lift to pass and continue beyond. You are also asking me questions, and I hear you. I answered that I cannot answer. You must find out for yourself. Sit a while, wayfarer. Here are biscuits to eat, and here's milk to drink. But as soon as you sleep and renew yourself in sweet clothes, I will certainly kiss you with my goodbye kiss and open the gate for your egress hence. Long enough have you dreamt contemptible dreams. Now I wash the gum from your eyes. You must habit yourself to the dazzle of the light and of every moment of your life. Long have you timidly waited, holding a plank by the shore. Now I will you to be a bold swimmer, to jump off in the midst of the sea and rise again and nod to me and shout and laughingly dash with your hair.
I am the teacher of athletes. He that by me spreads a wider breast than my own, proves the width of my own. He most honors my style who learns under it to destroy the teacher. The boy I love, the same becomes a man, not through derived power, but in his own right, wicked rather than virtuous, out of conformity or fear, fond of his sweetheart, relishing well his steak. Unrequited love, or a slight, cutting him worse than a wound cuts. First rate to ride, to fight, to hit the bullseye, to sail a skiff, to sing a song or play on the banjo. Preferring scars and the beard and faces pitted with smallpox over all latherers. And those well tanned to those that keep out of the sun. I teach strain from me, yet who can stray from me? I follow you, whoever you are. From the present hour, my words itch at your ears till you understand them. I do not say these things for $1 or to fill up the time while I wait for a boat. It is you talking just as much as myself. I act as the tongue of you. It was tied in your mouth. In mine it begins to be loosened. I swear I will never again mention love or death inside a house. I swear I will never translate myself at all, only to him or her who privately stays with me in the open air. If you would understand me, go to the heights or water shore. The nearest net is an explanation, and a drop of motion of waves a key. The ball, the oar, and the handsaw second my words. No shuttered room or school can commune with me, but roughs and little children better than they. The young mechanic is closest to me. He knows me well. The woodman that takes his axe and jug with him shall take me with him all day. The farm boy plowing in the fields feels good at the sound of my voice. In vessels that sail, my words must sail. I go with fishermen and seamen and love them. My face rubs to the hunter's face when he lies down alone in his blanket. The driver, thinking of me, does not mind the jolt of his wagon. The young mother and the old mother shall comprehend me. The girl and the wife rest the needle a moment and forget where they are. They and all would resume what I have told them.
I have said that soul is not more than the body, and I have said that the body is not more than the soul. And nothing, not God, is greater to one than oneself is. And whoever walks a furlough without sympathy walks his own funeral, dressed in his shroud. And I or you, pocketless of a dime, may purchase the pick of the earth. And to glance with an eye or show a being in its pod confounds the learning of all times. And there is no trade or employment but the young man following it may become a hero. And there is no object so soft but it makes a hub for the wheeled universe. And any man or woman shall stand cool and supercilious before 1,000,000 universes. And I call to mankind, be not curious about God, for I, who am I curious about each, am not curious about God. I hear and behold God in every object, yet I understand God not in the least, nor do I understand who there can be more wonderful than myself. Why should I wish to see God better than this day? I see something of God each hour of the 24, and each moment then. In the faces of men and women, I see God, and in my own face in the glass, I find letters from God dropped in the street, and everyone is signed by God's name. And I leave them where they are, for I know that others will punctually come forever and ever.
And as to you, death, and you bitter hug of mortality, it is idle to try to alarm me. To his work without flinching, the accoucheur comes. I see the elder hand pressing, receiving, supporting. I recline by the sills of the exquisite flexible doors, and mark the outlet, and mark the relief and escape. And as to you, corpse, I think you are good manure, but that does not offend me. I smell the white rose, sweet-scented and growing. I reach to the leafy lips. I reach to the polished breasts of melons. And as to you, life, I reckon you are the leavings of many deaths. No doubt I have died myself 10,000 times before. I hear you whispering there, O stars of heaven, O suns, O grass of graves, O perpetual transfers and promotions. If you do not say anything, how can I say anything? Of the turbid pool that lies in the autumn forest, of the moon that descends the steeps of the sowing twilight. Toss, sparkles of day and dusk. Toss on the black stems that decay in the muck. Toss to the moaning gibberish of the dry limbs. I ascend from the moon. I ascend from the night. I perceive of the ghastly glimmer the sunbeams reflected, and debouch to the steady and central from the offspring great or small.
There is that in me. I do not know what it is, but I know it is in me. Drenched and sweaty, calm and cool, then my body becomes. I sleep long. I do not know it. It is without name. It is a word unsaid. It is not in any dictionary or utterance or symbol. Something it swings on more than the earth I swing on. To it, the creation is the friend whose embracing awakes me. Perhaps I might tell more outlines. I plead for my brothers and sisters. Do you see, oh my brothers and sisters? It is not chaos or death. It is form and union and plan. It is eternal life. It is happiness.
The past and present wilt. I have filled them and emptied them, and proceed to fill my next fold of the future. Listener up there, hear you. What have you to confide to me? Look in my face while I snuff the sidle of evening. Talk honestly. No one else hears you, and I stay only a minute longer. Do I contradict myself? Very well, then I contradict myself. I am large. I contain multitudes. I concentrate towards them that are nigh. I wait on the door slab. Who has finished his day's work and will soonest be through with his supper? Who wishes to walk with me? We speak before I'm gone. Will you prove already too late?
The spotted hawk swoops by and accuses me. He complains of my gab and my loitering. I, too, am not a bit tamed. I, too, am untranslatable. I sound my barbaric yacht over the roofs of the world. The last scud of day holds back for me. It flings my likeness after the rest, and true as any on the shadowed wilds. It coaxes me to the vapor and the dusk. I depart as air. I shake my white locks at the runaway sun. I fuse my flesh in eddies and drift it in lacy jags. I bequeath myself to the dirt, to grow from the grass I love. You will hardly know who I am or what I mean, but I shall be good health to you nevertheless, and filter and fiber your blood. Failing to fetch me at first, keep encouraged. Missing me one place, search another. I stop somewhere, waiting for you.